The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Cold drops fell from the dark sky, turning the ground into thick mud. Villagers stayed inside their shelters, but Kael, a 15-year-old human boy, stood outside, clutching a crude spear. His eyes scanned the forest edge, every muscle in his body tense. Something was out there. Kael was the only human in this alien village. Months ago, he had wandered into their lands after losing his family during a border war. The blue-skinned people, the Vareen, had taken him in, though not all welcomed his presence. Some whispered that humans were dangerous. Others said they were cursed. Kael didn't care what they thought. He owed his life to the chief's daughter, Lyara. That day, Kael had been gathering water near the old ruins when he heard a faint cry. It was not the voice of any villager. It was sharp, desperate. Without thinking, he followed the sound through the rain and into the thick forest. There, between the roots of a massive stone tree, lay Lyara. Her leg was bleeding badly, a broken spear beside her. She tried to rise but collapsed again. Before Kael could reach her, a deep growl froze him in place. A beast emerged from the shadows, its fur black and wet, its fangs glistening. Its eyes locked on Lyara. Without a second thought, Kael leapt forward. Planting himself between her and the predator, the beast lunged. Kael thrust his spear upward, but the weapon snapped against its thick hide. Pain shot through his arm as sharp teeth sank into his shoulder. He screamed but didn't fall. With his free hand, he grabbed a rock and smashed it into the beast's head again and again. The creature stumbled back, snarling. Kael felt warm blood trickle down his arm, but he ignored it. He lifted Lyara onto his back and ran. Roots, mud, and rain tried to pull him down, but his legs didn't stop. He could hear the beast chasing, its claws tearing into the earth. When they broke through the forest line, the village guards saw them. Shouts rose. Spears were thrown. The beast roared in pain and vanished into the trees. Kael stumbled forward, his knees nearly giving way, but he kept Lyara on his back until they reached the central courtyard. The crowd gathered instantly. Warriors, traders, and children stared at the blood-covered human boy carrying the chief's daughter. Gasps spread when they saw Kael's shoulder wound. Then the sound of heavy boots on stone filled the air. The Vareen chief appeared tall, with silver hair falling over his dark armor, his blue skin seeming almost to glow under the rain. His cold eyes locked on Kael. The boy couldn't tell if it was anger or something else. Kael lowered Lyara gently to the ground. Her eyes opened just enough to whisper, "He saved me." The chief's gaze shifted to his daughter, then back to Kael. He stepped forward until he stood right in front of the boy. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sounds were the rain and the distant rumble of thunder. Then, the chief reached out and gripped Kael's uninjured arm, not gently but firmly. The crowd waited for his words. "You fought the beast with nothing but a broken spear," the chief said, his deep voice carrying over the courtyard. "And you carried my daughter from death's grasp." Kael opened his mouth, unsure what to say. The chief's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are human," the chief continued, "but today you stood as one of the Vareen." The crowd murmured, surprised by his words. Some looked shocked, others displeased. Kael could feel the tension around him like a weight. The chief finally released his arm and turned to the guards. "Take him to the healers," he ordered. "And bring me the spear of my father's. This boy will carry it now." Gasps erupted again. The spear of the chief's fathers was a symbol of honor, carried only by those the Vareen trusted with their lives. Kael couldn't believe what he was hearing. As the healers led him away, Kael caught a final glance of Lyara. Even in her pain, she managed a faint smile. But in the crowd, not everyone smiled. There were eyes that watched him with cold, quiet hate. The rain kept falling, and somewhere in the forest, the wounded beast still lived. Kael woke up to the sharp smell of herbs. His shoulder burned as if fire still bit into it. He opened his eyes and saw dim light from a small oil lamp. A healer, an elderly Vareen woman with wrinkled blue skin, was wrapping his wound with clean linen soaked in a green paste. "You're lucky," she said in a voice rough from age. The beast's teeth were deep, but it missed the bone. "You'll live." Kael tried to sit up, but the woman pressed him back down. "Rest. The chief will speak to you when the time is right." Through the half-open tent flap, Kael could see the village courtyard. Warriors moved in and out, their armor glinting in the faint morning light. It was quiet, too quiet. He could feel the unease in the air. Hours later, the tent flap opened, and Lyara stepped inside. She walked with a limp, her injured leg bound tightly, but her eyes were clear. "You should be resting," Kael said. "I came to see you," she replied softly. She knelt beside his bed, her silver hair falling forward. "The chief is not as calm as he seemed yesterday. The elders are speaking of the beast. They say it should never have come so close to the village." Kael frowned. "Do they think it followed you?" Lyara hesitated. "Some do. And some think it followed you." The words sank into Kael like ice. He had known the Vareen didn't all trust him, but now, after saving Lyara, the idea that he might be blamed felt like a cruel twist. Before Kael could speak again, loud horns echoed through the village. Both he and Lyara turned toward the sound. Warriors were shouting outside. The healer pulled open the tent flap, revealing a group of guards running toward the northern gate. The beast had returned. Kael ignored the pain in his shoulder and stood. "Stay here," he told Lyara, grabbing the short blade lying beside his bed. "You can't fight like this," she protested. "I'm not letting it hurt anyone else," he said, and before she could stop him, he was out in the rain again. The northern gate was in chaos. The massive wooden doors had been smashed inward, splinters littering the ground. The beast was bigger than Kael remembered, its fur slick with rain, its eyes glowing with fury. A deep scar ran down its face where Kael had struck it the day before. Vareen. Warriors surrounded it, their spears stabbing toward its sides, but the creature moved like shadow and lightning combined. It knocked one guard to the ground with a single swipe, sending another crashing into the mud. Kael's heart pounded. He saw the chief among the fighters, his long silver hair plastered to his armor by the rain. The chief's spear flashed, cutting through the air, but the beast twisted away. Without thinking, Kael charged forward. His feet pounded the wet ground, his blade tight in his hand. As he neared the beast, it turned toward him, snarling. Recognizing him instantly, the creature lunged, but Kael dove to the side, sliding in the mud and slashing at its leg. The blade cut deep, and the beast roared in pain. The chief seized the opening, driving his spear into the beast's shoulder. The monster staggered, but it didn't fall. With a burst of speed, it leapt over the warriors and vanished into the forest again. Leaving the gate in ruins, the chief turned to Kael, his face unreadable. "You disobeyed the healer," he said flatly. Kael straightened, chest heaving. "I wasn't going to watch from a tent while others died." For a moment, the chief's expression softened, but it quickly hardened again. "You fight with courage," he said, "but courage without discipline will kill you, and perhaps others." The surrounding warriors exchanged glances. Some nodded in agreement, others looked uneasy. Kael felt the weight of every stare. Then the chief raised his voice so all could hear. "The beast is not just an animal. It is a shadow of the old wars, a creature born from hatred. And it will not stop until it has finished what it started." The rain fell harder, drumming against armor and skin. Kael's grip tightened on his blade. He didn't know what the beast had started, but he knew one thing: if it came again, he would be ready. From the edge of the crowd, Lyara watched, her eyes fixed on Kael. There was fear in her gaze, but also something else, something the chief seemed to notice and as the warriors returned to guard the broken gate, Kael couldn't shake the feeling that the beast wasn't the only threat closing in on him. Night fell heavy over the village. Torches flickered in the rain, casting long shadows across the stone walls. The broken northern gate had been reinforced with thick wooden beams, but Kael could still see the claw marks deep in the wood. He sat on the steps near the healer's tent, his injured shoulder throbbing. Every so often, his eyes drifted toward the chief's longhouse. He had been told to wait there until called, and now the moment had come. 2 guards appeared, their armor dark and wet, and gestured for him to follow. Inside the longhouse, the air was warm but tense. The chief sat at the far end on a carved stone chair, the firelight glinting off his armor. Lyara was there too, standing to the side, her expression unreadable. Kael stepped forward, his boots leaving wet marks on the stone floor. The chief's voice was deep and measured. "You are brave, human boy. Brave enough to face death without flinching. But bravery alone does not make you ready for the truth." Kael frowned. "The truth about what?" The chief leaned forward slightly. "The beast is not a wild animal. It was made, forged in the old wars by those who sought to destroy my people. Its kind can smell bloodline's old enemies, even after generations." Kael's mind raced. "You mean, it was after you? Or after the Vareen?" The chief's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it smelled something else. Something human." Kael's heart skipped a beat. "Humans weren't part of your wars." "No," the chief agreed slowly. "But there are secrets older than both our peoples. If this beast hunts you, it may be because of a tie you do not yet understand." Lyara stepped forward. "Father, he saved my life. If the beast comes for him, we should protect him, not question him like an enemy." The chief's gaze softened when it landed on her, but only for a moment. "Protect him, yes. But we must also be ready to act if he brings danger to our gates." Kael clenched his fists. "I didn't ask to be here. I didn't bring that thing. But if it comes for me again, I'll face it myself." The chief studied him for a long time, then stood. His tall frame seemed to fill the room. "No, boy. Next time, you will not face it alone. You will fight with us. You will carry the spear I promised you." From a rack on the wall, he took down a weapon unlike any Kael had seen. The shaft was carved from black wood, polished smooth, with silver inlays forming ancient Vareen symbols. The spearhead glimmered faintly, as though it caught light from a source unseen. "This spear belonged to my father," the chief said, his voice low. "He used it to kill the last of the war beasts a generation ago. If the creature that hunts you is truly one of them, this will be your only chance to survive." Kael took the weapon carefully. It felt both heavy and alive in his hands. Lyara stepped closer. "You'll need training. I can help." Kael met her eyes. "Then we start tomorrow." The chief nodded once, then dismissed them with a wave. "Go rest. Tomorrow we prepare for the hunt." Outside, the rain had eased to a drizzle. The village was quiet, but Kael felt every shadow watching him. He walked with Lyara toward the healer's tent, the spear in his grip as they neared the tent. Lyara spoke softly. "My father may seem harsh, but he's lost much to these creatures. If you prove yourself, he'll trust you fully." Kael glanced at her. "And if I don't?" She didn't answer right away. "Then you'll have more to fear than just the beast." Before Kael could reply, a sudden howl cut through the night. It wasn't close, but it wasn't far either. The sound was deep, echoing through the hills like a call of hunger. The guards at the gate tensed, their eyes scanning the dark. The drizzle turned colder, and Kael tightened his grip on the spear. Somewhere out there, the beast was moving again. And this time, Kael knew it wasn't just hunting, it was waiting. Morning came with a thin layer of mist hanging over the village. The air was cool, the ground still wet from the night's rain. Kael stood in the courtyard, the chief's spear in his hands. Across from him, Lyara adjusted the straps of her light armor. "You've used a spear before?" she asked. "Not like this," Kael admitted. "I've hunted small game, but nothing bigger than a boar." Lyra's eyes sharpened. "Then today, you learn to fight something that wants to kill you. The beast won't give you time to think. You must move before it does." She moved fast, her own spear darting forward. Kael blocked clumsily, the force pushing him back a step. Lyara circled him like a predator, striking again and again. Each blow stung his arms and shoulders. "Your stance is too high," she said. "Bend your knees. Keep your weight forward. Don't just defend, make it pay for every step it takes toward you." Kael adjusted, forcing his legs to steady. When she struck again, he turned the shaft to catch her blow and pushed back. This time, she gave a small nod. Hours passed. The sun broke through the mist, turning the courtyard into a patchwork of light and shadow. Kael's arms ached, his breathing heavy, but he refused to stop. Each movement became sharper, each block more certain. By midday, the chief appeared at the edge of the courtyard, watching silently. His expression was unreadable, but Kael could feel the weight of his gaze. After the session, Lyara handed Kael a skin of water. "Better," she said, "but better isn't enough. The beast will test every weakness you have." Kael drank deeply, then looked at the chief. "Why does it want me?" The chief's eyes narrowed slightly. "You carry something in your blood. My father spoke of such things. A link between our kind and yours that was buried after the old wars. Perhaps the beast can sense it." Kael frowned. "A link? Between humans and Vareen?" The chief stepped closer. "Long ago, before the wars, our peoples fought side by side against the war beasts. Some humans carried bloodlines that allowed them to resist the beast's fear aura, to stand against them when others fled. Those humans were rare and dangerous. To the enemy, the beasts were made to destroy them first." The truth hit Kael hard. "You're saying it hunts me because I have that blood?" The chief gave a slow nod. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it hunts you because it remembers your kind as the ones who killed its kin." Lyara looked between them. "If that's true, then killing it might not stop others from coming." Kael gripped the spear tighter. "Then we kill them too." The chief's mouth curved in the faintest shadow of a smile. "We will see if you live long enough for that." That night, Kael lay in the healer's tent, staring at the roof. The village was quiet, but his mind was not. Images of the beast filled his thoughts, the flash of its teeth, the weight of its gaze. He thought of his parents, of the night he lost them to the war on the human border, and now this. Another war, one he hadn't even known existed. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, it brought dreams. He saw the forest lit by fire, strange shapes moving through the smoke. The beast stood in the center, its eyes locked on him, but behind it were others, larger, darker, their growls shaking the earth. Kael woke to the sound of movement outside. Voices spoke in low tones, urgent. He rose and stepped out into the cool night air. At the northern gate, 2 guards stood over something in the mud. Kael approached and saw the carcass of a small animal, its body torn open, blood still warm. One guard shook his head. "It's close, too close." The other looked toward the dark forest. "It's hunting, testing our walls." Kael stared into the shadows beyond the gate. He could feel it somehow, without seeing it, that the beast was out there, watching, waiting. And this time, it wasn't just for him. The night was silent, too silent. Even the rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy and still. Kael stood watch near the northern gate, the spear of the chief's fathers in his grip. Torches flickered along the walls, their light casting dancing shadows into the forest beyond. He could feel it again, the same crawling sensation in his skin, the same weight in his chest. The beast was close. A faint rustle came from the tree line. Kael's grip tightened. The guards along the wall peered into the darkness, their eyes narrowing. Then it happened. A low, guttural growl rolled through the air, deeper than thunder. Before anyone could react, something massive surged from the shadows. The beast slammed into the wooden gate with a force that made the entire wall shudder. Shields! A guard shouted, but it was too late. The beast's claws ripped through the beams, splinters flying like arrows. One final push, and the gate burst open. The creature charged in, its eyes blazing, its black fur bristling. Behind it, two smaller shapes followed war beasts, their bodies leaner but no less deadly. Form a line. The chief's voice roared from the far side of the courtyard. He strode forward with his own spear, armor gleaming under the torchlight. Lyara was beside him, her smaller spear ready. Kael didn't think he moved. The first smaller beast lunged toward a guard, but Kael intercepted it, driving his spear forward. The tip sank into its chest, and the creature howled. It clawed at him, ripping his arm, but he twisted the spear free and struck again. The beast collapsed, lifeless. The second smaller one leapt for Lyara. She dodged, her spear flashing, cutting a deep line across its flank. It snarled and turned toward her, but Kael was already moving. He thrust his spear into its side, and Lyara finished it with a strike to the neck that left only the main beast dotted towered over everyone, its muscles rippling, its teeth dripping with saliva. The chief met it head-on, his spear striking with blinding speed. The beast countered with a swipe of its massive paw, knocking the chief backward. The crowd gasped, but the chief rolled to his feet, his stance unbroken. "Kael, with me!" he shouted. Kael ran to the chief's side, the two of them circling the beast. Lyara moved to flank it, her eyes locked on its movements. The beast lunged for Kael. He ducked under its claws and struck upward, the spear's silver head cutting into its shoulder. The beast roared and spun toward him, but the chief's spear slammed into its ribs, driving it back. It was too fast. Every attack they made was met with snapping jaws and swiping claws. One wrong move, and it would tear them apart. Kael's shoulder throbbed from the old wound, his breath coming hard. Then he remembered the chief's words, "Make it pay for every step it takes toward you." The beast stepped in again, and Kael didn't back away. He planted his feet, twisting the spear low to catch its leg. The beast stumbled for just a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, Lyara struck from behind, her spear burying deep into its back. The beast roared in pain, spinning wildly. Its claws caught Lyara across the arm, sending her to the ground. Kael's chest tightened, rage flooding his veins. He screamed and charged, driving the spear straight into the beast's chest with all his strength. The tip sank deep, the runes along the shaft glowing faintly in the torchlight. The beast staggered, choking out a final low growl before collapsing into the mud. Silence fell over the courtyard. Kael stood over the beast's body, chest heaving, the spear still in his hands. The chief approached, his gaze sweeping over the fallen creature. "It is done," the chief said, but his voice was not one of celebration. It was low, almost grim. "It's over, isn't it?" The chief's eyes moved to the forest. "No, this was only one. Others will come." Kael felt a cold weight settle in his chest. If there were more beasts out there, then this fight was far from finished. Lyara stood, her arm bleeding but her eyes fierce. "Then we'll be ready." The chief looked at them both, his face unreadable. "Tomorrow you learn the truth about why they hunt you." And Kael knew that whatever was coming next would be even worse than the battle they had just survived. The dawn was pale and cold. Smoke from last night's fire still curled above the village, carrying the scent of wet ash. The dead beast's body had been dragged to the far field, its black fur matted with blood. Warriors stood guard there, as if afraid it might rise again. Kael sat outside the healer's tent, the spear resting across his knees. His arms and shoulders ached, but his mind was too restless for sleep. He kept replaying the battle in his head, the way the beast moved, the glow in its eyes, and the strange light that had pulsed through the spear when he struck the killing blow. The chief approached quietly, his silver hair damp from the morning mist. Lyara followed, her injured arm bound in clean linen. "It's time you knew," the chief said, his voice deep and steady. "Come." Kael followed them beyond the village, past the old stone ruins where he had first found Lyara. They stopped at a half-buried archway covered in moss and strange markings. The chief placed a hand against the stone, and a low hum filled the air. Slowly, the ground before them shifted, revealing a narrow stairway leading down into darkness. Long before the Vareen humans were enemies, the chief began as they descended. "We fought together. There was a war against a force older than either of our worlds, the makers of the beasts. They bred these creatures to hunt warriors who carried the courage to resist their control." Kael frowned. "Courage? That's not something you can smell." The chief gave a small nod. "Not in most. But in those days, some humans and some Vareen shared a rare trait, a bloodline born from the same ancient warrior. You are one of them." They reached the bottom of the stairs, entering a wide chamber lit by soft blue crystals. At its center stood a great stone table, and upon it lay carvings of humans and Vareen fighting side by side against monstrous beasts. Kael stepped closer, tracing the lines of a human warrior holding the same spear now in his hands. "This is my father's father's father," the chief said. "And yours. We share the same blood, though distant through many generations. That is why the beast sought you, and why the spear answered you in battle." Kael's heart pounded. "Then if more come, they'll keep coming for me." "Yes," the chief said, "until the last of our shared blood is gone. Or until we destroy them all." Lyara stepped forward. "Then we destroy them." Her voice carried no hesitation. The chief studied her for a moment, then looked back to Kael. "You have a choice, human boy. Leave this place, hide among your own kind, and perhaps live longer. Or stay, train, and stand with us when the others come." Kael didn't have to think. "I'm not running. If this fight started with our ancestors, then it ends with me." The chief gave a single nod. "Then you are Vareen in more than spirit." They climbed back into the morning light. The village was already alive with movement warriors repairing the gate, others preparing supplies. The air was heavy with the knowledge that last night's attack was only the beginning. Kael stood at the center of it all, the spear in his hands. Lyara stepped beside him, her voice low enough only for him to hear. "You know this means you'll never have a quiet life again." He smiled faintly. "Quiet was never my thing." From the forest came the distant sound of a horn. Not a beast's howl this time, but something stranger, a long note that seemed to vibrate in his bones. The chief's face darkened. "They are calling to each other," he said. "Gathering." Kael tightened his grip on the spear. The fear he had felt before was gone now, replaced by a steady, burning resolve. If the beast were coming for him, then they would find him ready. And this time, the human boy they hunted would not be running, he would be leading the charge.